Okay, so with Thanksgiving coming up around the corner, so I thought it might be a nice idea to delve into, the topic itself discusses celebrating Thanksgiving in Halacha, but it really touches on a much broader topic, which is a pretty common, occurs day to day, and that is the Isser, the prohibition of Chukos HaGoyim, right? That we know that the Torah forbids us, as we're going to soon discuss, to not follow the ways of non-Jews, and we'll see why exactly the Torah does that. But obviously, what does that entail, right? Non-Jews, they wear glasses, so maybe we shouldn't be allowed to wear glasses. Obviously, that's absurd, right? Non-Jews, they wear sweaters. That's a nice sweater right there. Maybe you shouldn't be able to wear that. So obviously,
clothing.
So obviously, we have to. That forces us to define what exactly falls under this category and what is not does not fall under the category. So just briefly, I had to brush up on my history. What exactly is Thanksgiving? Where does Thanksgiving come from? So apparently, it goes back to 1621 to the Pilgrimage celebration. They were expressing gratitude to God after a successful harvest. In addition, at some point, what year was this again? What year was it that there wasn't enough food, and they, in the distance, according to some legend, they spotted some turkey, and with that they had enough food for their meal.
I never heard that one.
You never heard that one? I read that somewhere. You ever heard that one? No. Okay.
Miss it.
No, we're trying to discover the actual origin for the minhag of turkey on Thanksgiving.
I heard they took the idea of Thanksgiving in general took from Sukkot. Took their holiday from ours.
Okay, right. Well, yeah. So it's pretty clear that it's similar. It is similar to Sukkot in a way that it's for the harvest. But apparently, at some point, the turkey source came in, and that's actually going to play a factor. We're going to see, does it have a legitimate reason or not? Okay, and at a certain point, I think George Washington, one year he issued the first national Thanksgiving proclamation in 1789, yet again in 1795, but it wasn't formally established until 1863, in the middle of the Civil War, apparently, which is a good time to celebrate a new holiday. Somebody was lobbying for a national day off from work. Okay. So anyways, since 1863, it's been observed as a national holiday year after year, and now we have to kind of figure out, is one allowed to, should one perhaps celebrate Thanksgiving? Okay, so where does the discussion even begin? So the Torah...
There's Thanksgiving itself, and there's the cultural part of it.
What do you mean?
The basic concept is one thing, and then the customs that arose around it.
Right. So you're saying expressing gratitude, right? That's what Jewish is all about. Yehudim, right? We know we're called Yehudim because Yehuda means to Hapam Odes Hashem. So gratitude is certainly a Jewish ideal, but maybe perhaps the customs that go along with it, right? Eating turkey and watching football, and what else is it? What else included? Is that it?
Our ritual when I was a kid was on Staten Island. They would have the big high school football game Thanksgiving morning.
A high school football game.
Yeah,
I thought it was real football.
It would draw about 8,000 to 10,000 people.
Wow,
it was the big deal.
In person or on TV?
In person. we would actually go there.
TVs didn't exist back then, right?
No, they didn't. In fact, we didn't even go on horseback. We took a car.
It was a black and white. Okay, so Parshas Acharemos, the Torah tells us, "Kemaisa eter Mitzrayim," like the ways of the land of Egypt, asher shaftim b'lo, like the ways of the people of Egypt where you lived, you should not do. Ukemaisa eret Canaan, asher ne'meviskam k'sham lo sasu, and as well as the actions, like the ways of the people of Canaan, Eretz Yisrael, that I'm just going to bring you to. You shall also not do like ubechukoseim lo seilechu, and you shall not follow their chukim, their ways. Right? We know we have our chukim. Ubechukoseim lo seilechu. You shall not follow their chukim. So what Rashi says, eluni musa shelhen dvar machukuklem, things which are steady for them. Kagon tartios v'tztatios, theaters and stadiums. Rameir Omer elu darkei hamori shemanachamim. This verse of darkei hamori generally refers to things which kind of have like hiji-biji, don't really have any rhyme or reason. A lot of bad luck, bad omen, these kinds of things. Now, this is what Rashi's quoting. This comes from this guy. So we know Rashi always is coming from a source, not making it up. This comes from a Sifra, which is a work of Chazal, and it says. So we want to try to figure out what does it mean. Right? The Torah says you cannot follow their ways. So the Sifra asks, what can this possibly refer to that we have not already forbid? Right? We know they're not allowed to do maver beno bito ve'esh v'kosei. We're not allowed to do molech we can't do Avodah Zarah. We can't start, trying to use the dead to kind of learn the future. So what could this possibly...
Like Ouija boards.
Right. Well, so what could this possibly be referring to? If the Torah already forbade all this, so then what is it referring to beyond that?
Bingo.
Okay. So the Shifra says, "Shalotochel b'nimus shalem b'devarim hachukuklem." Right. Exactly like Rashi quotes. You shall not follow their ways. Theater, stadiums, and Rameir quotes Darkei HaGoyim. This refers to the hijabija kind of stuff. The Sefer brings a further shita of Rabbi Yehuda Meseir, which says you shouldn't grow tzitzis harosh. I'm not sure exactly what it's referred to. It's a certain hairstyle, which was the way of the Najus. V'shalatasmer kom mishafa, to cut your hair in a certain way. So it refers to all these things, basically, which is the way of the Najus. Okay?
I was told that the real nature of these is that they're irrational.
Okay, so we're going to get to that. We're going to say, what's the common theme of all these things? Are they irrational? Is there something else to it? So, this prohibition actually comes up one more place in the Torah. It comes in Parshat Mishpatim. It says, "V'lo sasa k'maseim." You shall not do as their ways. And again, we see that the Torah forbids us to do like the ways of non-Jews. Now, why is this? So it's pretty self-evident. But the Rishonim speak out. The Rambam says the Torah, aside from not being able to do Avodah Zarah, but the Torah wants to distance us from the ways of the non-Jews. And part of distancing us from the way of the non-Jews is that we should be different, right? We know that Hein Am Levodad Yishkon, we're a nation that's set apart, we're separated. Excuse me. And part of that is included in not following their ways. We have to be different. We are different. We have higher, more responsibilities, and therefore we must act differently as well. This is explicit in the Rambam. The Rambam tells us. I'm sorry. Okay, let's first see the Ran. The Ran says. Sorry, I'm adjusted to my glasses, so I'm having a hard time. Oh, there we go. The Ran says, why did the Torah forbid any custom that is, designated for by the non-Jews? Right? We know that if we start following them, that a person might be drawn upon them. Oh, that's a nice custom you have, right? Well, so that might be innocuous. But that's what we called a gateway drug, right? You start doing that, and then one thing leads to another, and you might actually start following their ways. So therefore, the Torah forbids this as well. I think in a previous year, where did we discuss this? We know that very often that the rabbis won't act what we call a siyag, right? A gate. The rabbis want us to avoid any prohibition, but in fact, Rav Yosef Enkel, one of the great achronim, he just says that even in the Torah you'll find many prohibitions which are also by nature to kind of that nature. Right, or also to prevent us from going further. So this might also fall under the category. The Torah doesn't want us to do things which are seemingly, harmless, but also to prevent us from going further and doing the more strict things. But it's a Torah prohibition nonetheless. Okay, so that's the basic prohibition, and the question is, does this fall under, right? Does this celebrating their holidays, does this fall under that category now? Okay, so. There's actually this starts from there's a very interesting, do you mind giving me Avodah Zarah, the first Avodah Zarah volume? Sorry, I shouldn't have brought it. So there's a very fascinating discussion in the Gemara Avodah Zarah. The Gemara Avodah Zarah, now I can pull it up. Now I can pull it up over here. Let me see. Okay, I'll pull it up over here. Okay. Okay, so the Gemara and Avodah Zarah discusses, apparently the custom used to be that when a king would die, they would burn their clothing, right? They would burn their clothing and all their garments, all their vessels, all their things, and that's what they would do. So the Gemara says that we're allowed to do this as well, for Jewish kings as well, and this does not fall into the category of Darkei HaGoyim, of the ways of the non-Jews, because and the Gemara brings a verse in Yirmiyah which says that they would do that for Jewish kings as well.
But does that make it right?
Oh, so we're gonna see. When does the fact that it's written in the Torah does that help or not? And the Gemara says they would burn their beds, their vessels, etc. And in fact, not only that, the Gemara says even for a Nasi, right? Nasi is like the prince, the leader of Gamliel, a Nasi. The Gemara says when Gamliel died, Uncle Hager, right, the one who translated the Torah, he personally burnt many of his. He burnt his clothing. So the Gemara asks, what understand? Right? Doesn't this fall under the category of following the ways? Right? This is a non-Jewish practice. How are we allowed to do it? So what does the Gemara
I
answer?
have a question.
Yeah.
So I think on Rosh on the Kohen Gadol would get rid of his vestments after Yom Kippur.
So would this fall under the same?
I don't know. I think but I don't think he burned them, but I know he got rid of them.
They were retired from service.
Right.
Retired from service.
Right. Hung up in the rafters. Maybe.
It's different than burning.
Maybe, yeah. Burning, the Gemara asks, burning should be prohibited because that's seems to be adopted from non-Jewish practice. So the Gemara said no. Sreif alav chukehi, right? It's not a chok. It's not a we'll call it, I guess, we'll translate a non-logical law. Ela chashivusahi. It's showing chashivas. It's showing importance, right? Why do we burn the king's clothing? Because could you imagine? It's like, the king dies, and then 2 weeks later you see some guy in the street walking around in his pants. It's like a very funny thing, right? So it's great disrespect. So there's a way of saying nobody else could use it, like al kisila yeshav zara, and nobody else allowed to sit on his throne. Nobody could wear his pants. Nobody could wear his coat. It's not meant to be, passed around. So the Gemara says the reason why it does not fall under the category of b'chukusem lo selechu is because it's not a chok. Chok means like we have a chok, right? We don't understand the reason. Chok means they do something without reason. Here, when the practice itself has a rhyme or reason to it, then it does not fall under the prohibition, right? So far, we seem to say that, okay, we've kind of limited to what, we framed what exactly the prohibition is. Okay. However, as is usually the case, it's not as simple as that. Because the Gemara also discusses a different halachic discussion, and that is whether or not, there are certain averos in the Torah, certain sins in the Torah for which capital punishment is called for. And one of them is sayif, which means like a sword. Now the Gemara says that they would actually behead entirely the person. So the Gemara asks, wouldn't this be okay? So the Gemara says, according to one opinion, they would cut off the head entirely, just like was the practice of the non-Jewish governments at the time. So the Gemara says, why isn't this b'chukusem lo selechu? So the Gemara says, no. Here it's not a problem because it's written in the Torah, right? One of the punishments of the Torah of death. There's 4 types. One of them is sayif, which means to be completely beheaded. Okay, so since it's written in the Torah, that is no longer a problem. So Tosfos and Avodah Zarah points out, hang on a second. There seems to be 2 reasons going on. You told me before that as long as there's a reason for it, that's not a problem. And here you're saying it has to be written in the Torah, right? So which one is it? Okay, it doesn't need to be written in the Torah, which is a pretty high threshold. Which means that anything which is not written in the Torah, we can no longer do. Or is it that no, as long as there's a reason for it, as we can come up with some rationale for it, then it would not be a problem. So Tosfos,
written in the Torah is just an example.
What do you mean?
Maybe those practices written in the Torah are examples of permissible things, but not the total.
But the Gemara seems to say the reason why it's permitted is because it's written in the Torah.
Right. I mean, you could take the other side that it's only some examples and not exclusive.
Okay, I mean the Gemara. It seems pretty clear from the way the Gemara answers that no, if it's written since it's written in the Torah, that's the only reason. Of course, it seems pretty clear from that Gemara. Okay. It's in Hedron. It's only when it's written in the Torah. So because of this question, right? Why do we need 2 reasons? Tosfos says, well, there's actually 2 forms, right? There's actually 2 forms of ubechu kasem salichu. One is when it's for the sake of avodah zarah, right? When it's actually done, they have some type of law, which not idol worship itself, but it's done for the purpose. It's part of their religion. It's part of their avodah zarah, part of their pagan worship, and therefore that's b'chu kasem salichu. And the other, he says, she'osin l'shem das hevel v'shtus shelahem. Hevel means like nothingness. Shtus means like shtus. How do you translate shtus? Foolishness. Yes. Stupidity. Vanity. Yeah. So he says there's 2 types. So he said when we're talking about something which is done, when we're talking about something which is done for the sake of avodah zarah, so then even if it's written in the Torah, okay, even if written in the Torah, it still becomes forbidden, right? And Tos actually says we know that originally the avos would bring a carbon on a matzeva, right? But later on in Devarim, the Torah actually forbids it, and that's because in the meantime it had since become the practice of Avodah Zarah itself. So something which became the practice of Avodah Zarah itself, excuse me, something which becomes the practice of Torah itself, of Avodah Zarah itself, is forbidden, even if it was once written in the Torah. However, things which are not for the sake of idol worship, but rather l'shem hevel v'shtus, right? It's for stupidity, for no foolishness. So then, as long as it's written in the Torah, then it's not forbidden. Okay? So again, something which is for the sake of Avodah Zarah is going to be forbidden regardless. And if it's not for the purpose of Avodah Zarah, but it's just some foolish thing, then it needs to be written in the Torah. Okay. So now, so that's what we have over here. So I actually want to, before we get to the actual discussion of Thanksgiving, I want to mention an interesting anecdote. So in 2022, the University of Padua, anybody heard of Padua? The city in Italy? Yeah, city in Italy.
Sure, yeah.
So they had a celebration.
One of the first universities.
Oh, very good.
Did Ramchal go there?
Did he go? It's possible. We're going to soon see. They had a celebration celebrating 800 years of the university. It was founded in 1222. I think it's like the fifth oldest university. And in this part of the celebration, they had a separate entire section devoted to the the rich Jewish history part of University of Padua. Now, why is there such a rich Jewish history? And that is because they in I think the 13th century, at some point later, pretty soon after, they opened the doors for Jews to come, which is at the time a novelty. Most places didn't accept Jews. And because of that, as a result of that decision, many Jewish doctors throughout the years went to that university, and this became, a prominent university, and many Jews, graduated there. And they had, and as part of this collection, they actually had they had some textbooks, like Flavius's book of anatomy, translated to Yiddish. They had a lot of interesting things that are. So this is part of their section. So I don't know if you go see it, but anyways, so that was part of it. So there was a doctor. There's somebody a Jewish who went there. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Disser Leon. Now he was very interesting. He wasn't necessarily a rabbi, but he was a big Talmud Chacham. He was a doctor, and he was held into such high esteem that he was actually allowed by the king to open up like a prep med school, which then you could then go on to graduate other schools. And in his prep med school, he adopted the practice that doctors have to wear a doctor coat. Now, I don't know if it looks like what a doctor coat is, generally a white lab coat, but he adopted this practice. Now, he started receiving flack for this, because people said, wait a second, this is what are you wearing these white coats for? This is standard non-Jewish practice. You're just adopting the custom of the non-Jews. This should be forbidden. So he kind of penned what we call a tshuva responsum, why he felt that this should be permitted. But he didn't publish it himself because he wasn't the rabbi of the city. He sent it to somebody by the name of Yehuda Cologne, or the Maharik. Maharik was an early Rishon around that time, very authoritative. He's quoted many times by the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. He's held in great regard, especially when it comes to the laws of mikvos. He has many very important rulings. So he sent this question to the Maharik. And let me find it. And essentially writing why he felt that it should be permitted and why this should not fall under the category of v'chuk selo salechu. And the Maharik essentially responded that he more or less agreed. And this, sometimes you'll have an halacha that like one response kind of becomes the foundation, the basis for how we kind of view the whole topic from there on out. So he responded that it's permitted, and this is actually quoted in the Ramah. The Ramah, in the beginning in Shulchan Aruch Kuf Ein Ches. So I'm sorry. Let's read the Shulchan Aruch. Ein hochem Chukos HaGoyim. It is not allowed. One is not allowed to follow the ways of the non-Jews. V'lo medam alem. Nor can you try to, be like them. V'lo yilbash malbash miyuchalem. You shouldn't wear like if they have a specific type of clothing. V'lo yigdal tzitzis rosha k'mo tzitzis rosham. You shouldn't grow your hair in the same way. V'lo yigalech metzadem v'yiniach asar be'emsa. Sounds like a mohawk. You kind of shave your head on the side and leave it in the middle. V'lo yigalech asar mi'keneged pana me'ozen lozen. Okay. Different hairstyles. Not only that, you shouldn't even build buildings in the same way like the Avodah Zarah. You're not supposed to build a shul in the way of a church, right? That's why when the Reform started changing things, they tried to make it more like a church. And the Chasam Sofer.
Putting the beam in the middle.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Front, yeah, and the Amud where the leaf stands facing.
Exactly.
Which in itself is Avodah Zarah, but it looks like everyone's davening to that leader rather than
perhaps, yeah. So those are those are fall under prohibition. So the Rambam says Eliyeh muvdeham musham b'sharim b'asif. Right, a Jew is supposed to be separate, both in his dress and in his action. V'chol zeh ina asa ela b'davar shenag b'hagayim l'shum pritzas. This is only when the custom is something we should do for pritzas, right? Like in a non-modest way. Right, here's where the Rambam talks about wearing red clothing. Or if they do something that has no reason, right? On Tuesdays we don't eat this, or on Tuesday, I don't know, let's make up some random thing. I don't know, what's a good example? Like,
the real thing is on Friday, Christians don't eat meat.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay. Catholics.
Catholic.
What's the ostensible reason for that?
During Lent, I think.
During Lent, yeah.
That's
Back in the
question.
day, it was every day.
Really?
Every Friday.
So something we should do that has absolutely no reason whatsoever, that's Darkei HaGoyim. However, something which they do for a purpose. Anybody who's an expert doctor, he has a certain type of clothing. Right? This is what he's quoting the Marek here. The Marek basically said it makes sense that a doctor should have a coat, right? If you went to the doctor's office and you saw your doctor just wearing jeans and a t-shirt, you'd probably get a little who's this guy?
But it's a uniform.
Right, it's a uniform. A uniform is a sensible thing, right? So since it has a tam, right, has a reason for it and a purpose, so therefore this doesn't fall under the category of Darkei HaGoyim of Chukos HaGoyim. We're going to use those terms interchangeably. Sometimes there are differences, but they're more or less the same. Darkei HaGoyim, the ways of the Moris, Chukos HaGoyim are usually used interchangeably. Or if they're doing it for honor, right? That a prestigious person. I don't know. In England, I think they have it, right? That the people of the parliament, they wear different. Do they wear anything different?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Or judges with power.
Maybe the judges or something. So a judge that he wears, even I think. Right, even though I kind of laugh, but I guess it makes sense, right, that a judge should have this, mishum kavod. And the Rambam says, and this is what the Gemara says, that you're allowed to burn the king's clothing, and there's no problem because there's a reason for that, as we said. There's a reason why we burn the king's clothing. Okay, so the Rambam is clearly telling us that one is allowed to do things as long as they have a reason. Okay, now there's a problem. So this would seemingly kind of avoid a lot of issues, right? Because anytime a question comes up, hang on, am I allowed to do this? So you kind of have to ask yourself, is there a real purpose for this, right? Are they doing this because of purpose? And if the answer is yes, then it would be permitted. And if it's nobody knows the reason why they do this, just everybody does, then it doesn't fall into the
It
category.
has to be a good purpose, probably.
What?
It has to be a good purpose.
A good purpose, right? Exactly. So that's obviously subjective, but so obviously you'd have to ask somebody, ask a rabbi, and as long as they can tell you that there's a logical reason for it.
What about a rally cap? Is that a good example of something that doesn't really
Right.
A pep rally.
A rally cap.
That's when you do it backwards, right?
Upside down, yeah. Or
Right.
inside out.
Right. That would seemingly be a problem, I would think.
What's a rally cap?
That's an attempt
You
at
take
getting
a
good luck.
baseball cap and you turn it inside out and put it on.
Yeah,
like
that's a good luck.
It's supposed to when
Right.
your team.
Good luck,
When your team is down by a lot, you need a
Oh,
big
it's a
boost.
rally.
Right.
A big boost.
So that would seemingly be permitted.
Sports, Hilchos sports.
Yeah, Halacha
You're
sports.
down, you turn your hat upside down. and-
We're gonna discuss also what about because the first example we brought is, by the way, going to stadiums at sports. How is it permitted to go to sports games?
Go, right, yeah.
Is it even go?
Not
Okay.
as expensive to field with Seaport.
And there we go. Not if you're gonna be late to Minyan, right?
Yep.
Okay, so. So the Gra here, he goes at quite a length, and he argues on this Rama. He says, "Hang on, but this doesn't jive with the Gemara. The Gemara says that having a purpose not enough. It's got to also be written in the Torah, right? If you go through the Gemara again, and the way we understood it through the lens of Tosos, it's only when it's actually written in the Torah. But meaning just a logical reason in and of itself is not enough. So the Gra actually does not allow for such things, and therefore he says that the fact that it has a logical reason, that's not enough. Okay, so we have this argument between the Rama and the Gra, right, which are two heavyweights in halacha. They generally follow the Rama, but the Gra is definitely a heavyweight in halacha, and therefore it's kind of like this. We're kind of left with this doubt who to follow, and this actually has a very interesting application. So the Rama actually tells us that on Shavuos, did we do it here on Shavuos? That we
Or
that-
with flowers?
Yes,
Greenery.
greenery. We
Oh,
put
greenery,
right.
yeah.
We put greenery up. We put greenery up on around the Aron on Shavuos. Why is this? Who knows? Because as I remember for Har Sinai, there was grass and there was flowers, so to commemorate Har Sinai. That's a certain logical reason. However, the Gra says, hang on a second, but this is a practice of the non-Jews. This is taken from the non-Jews. We know that come the holiday season, they have their trees and their grass and their everything, right? So we can't follow their ways. He says, why? Because it's not written in the Torah, right? So this is what we call the Shitasa. They're both following their own reasoning. The Ramah says, as long as there's a logical reason to do it, it looks nice, right? That's a logical reason, so it's not a problem. The Gra, on the other hand, says no. The fact that there's a logical reason in and of itself is not enough. It's got to be written in the Torah. And since it's not written in the Torah, one does not do it, and that's why in Eretz Yisrael, which generally follows the practice of the Gra, you'll find that they don't do it. I think here, we didn't do it this past year, right?
I don't think it's ever been done.
Yeah, I think Rabbi Gendra maybe because he follows the camp of the
before
Gra,
him,
maybe.
I remember
Maybe before him, okay.
About the Arava, somebody throw that up on there.
But that's a different, no,
That
that's,
whole doesn't matter.
That's it.
yeah, that's,
That's
I know other schools that do that too.
what? That falls into what?
That's Jewish shtus.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to actually get to Thanksgiving itself. Okay? Now, before we get to the actual opinions of the postgame and kind of wrap it up over here, let's kind of figure out for ourselves. All right? If I were to ask you, okay, based on everything we just said, should it be permitted to celebrate Thanksgiving? What would you say?
I've heard of Soloveitchik held it.
We're going to get there. What?
Yes,
No.
Yes. Yes, why do you say yes?
because it's logical, it makes sense.
Okay, fine. And why do you say no?
It's a custom of the nation.
As a nation. Okay, so I think what you guys are both following is because I just presented two opinions, right? The Ramah says as long as there's a logic to it, then it's permitted, right? And there's certainly it's a logic, expressing gratitude, but certainly a karsatov, a Jewish ideal, certainly good. But
According to the Gra.
Azariah says, no, wait a second. According to the Gra, that's not enough. It's got to be written in the Torah, and if it's not written in the Torah and it's a custom of the nations, no good.
What about the specific practices? Those shouldn't be allowed then, because if the logic is a karsatov,
Oh, so that's what we're gonna say. Because even if karsatov, but why does who said eating turkey? Exactly. Who said eating turkey is part of is a logical thing,
It's
right?
a good idea to eat something, so why not turkey?
Yeah, so eat whatever you want. But if I'm eating turkey in order to do like them, then perhaps I'll be okay. So it's very interesting because usually Rav Moshe is like very, very clear. He says exactly his mind on what he feels. Here, Rav Moshe has no less than 4 tshuvas on this topic. Can you imagine? Rav Moshe has 4 different responses to the topic. Now it's 3.5. The first one is actually an interesting question. Can you hold a simcha on Thanksgiving? Okay.
Why not? Somebody can't go like a bris or pig and bacon.
Oh, so that's very good. So you know what's funny? So I actually
Could
just
be on
checked
Yom Kippur.
before this year because I saw him discuss it. He differentiates. He said obviously a bris you can't push off, right? But what about a wedding? Or what about even a bar mitzvah? Technically, even though there's a customary to make a bar mitzvah, but it's not it's not an obligation. But a bris. So actually, I remember my mother telling me that my bris was on Thanksgiving. So I texted her. She said no, it was the day before. Mine was Wednesday, so we dodged a bullet over there. But
Otherwise, they'd have to do it over again.
yeah, my mother said it was. Sure hope not. We could do the Suda over again. How about that? But Rav Moshe actually discusses whether one should hold a wedding or a bar mitzvah celebration on these days, and he basically says, "B'dvar lasus eze simcha b'yom Eid Shel Nachem," regarding whether one can make a simcha on their holiday. So in b'kavana machshir yom Eid, I'm doing it because let's make a wedding Thanksgiving. Asher b'dina, it's certainly asher. If it's kavana, but if not doing it on purpose, yesh lesser mitzad amaris ayin, right?
Well, typically, if you're eating turkey, it's not out in the street; it's at your house.
Well, maris ayin is forbidden even in your house.
Okay.
Maris ayin is
So
Maris
you
ayin is
can't
like
see
the appearance of doing something which is sinful, even if it's not inherently sinful. However, he says, let's say it's a bris mila, prinya ben, so then there's no problem maris ayin because I'm obligated to do it. But he says you're better to push over bar mitzvah and even a wedding better to do. So here Moshe seems to say better not to if you can avoid it. Okay, now that's tshuva number 1. Tshuva number 2. Here Moshe says she'ein lasar medina l'kvol al eozem b'simcha. You can't make no problem making a simcha. Avalas asumch v'suda l'kavod Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving he calls it 2 words. To make a suda in honor of Thanksgiving. Yesh vadi lasar medina. This is certainly forbidden. Okay. He says, and although this is not for the purpose of Avodah Zarah, Moshe says this falls under a foolishness, right? Gathering around, eating turkey with cranberry, watching football. That's like there's no reason to it. And he quotes this Tosfos. So Rav Moshe seems to say that it's a problem to make a suda for the purpose of Thanksgiving. Now he says eating turkey by itself. If you want to eat turkey,
By suda, does he mean saying a bracha? I mean like
no, but gathering around, or inviting your family, sit a feast, having a proper suda.
Like how could I today?
Us Jews, we know what a suda is, right?
But how is that shtus?
What?
How is that?
You mean because you're saying expressing gratitude? Why is that nonsense?
Family joining, and it's the opposite of nonsense.
Right. So I think Rav Moshe later we're going to get to. You have to go through all the Rav Moshes. Rav Moshe clarifies what he says, but Rav Moshe says perhaps the idea of it, but like to eat turkey and to eat cranberry, that's just because somebody decided to eat turkey and somebody just eats cranberry. So that doing that falls under the shus.
So if you have chicken, so you can gather and have chicken. You can't have the turkey.
So the question is, does that once
But
it's fundamentally
What about mashed potatoes? What about
right?
what
So the
about-
question is but perhaps Rav Moshe understanding
pie.
that the whole thing but now that they decided to make it and they have all these like halachas, they made a whole shulchan aruch about how to do it, right? You know, I'm just trying to imagine my non-Jewish counterpart, like, you know, he's receiving calls like, does my turkey have to be this big? How much turkey do I have to eat? Do I have to have zayis? Right? And then they made a whole shulchan aruch about it. So then the whole suda takes on a different nature, right? So Moshe says, no, this is what the Torah falls under. We're not supposed to follow the ways. Non-Jews make Thanksgiving meals. We don't do that. We're supposed to set apart. We have different ways. That's how Moshe seems to understand, at least so far over here. Okay. So that's tshuva number 2. Then later, a different tshuva. So he says, regarding whether you're allowed to partake in Thanksgiving, so he says, well, it's not a religious holiday, right? And there's no obligation. So just, they're doing it to commemorate something and they're showing it to express gratitude. There shouldn't be any prohibition in making a suda, nor in making in tarnagol. And he says, but we can't say, for me to get up and say every person in the shul has to have a Thanksgiving, that would certainly be forbidden. But he says if a person understands that this is voluntary, it's a simchas reshus, he's allowed to do it, then here Moshe seems to indicate that it's permitted. So we kind of already have a direct contradiction. The earlier one, Moshe says you're not allowed to do it, and now Moshe seems to be saying that it's okay. So now, in the 4th tshuva,
how many years between these?
That's a good question. I'll tell you in 1 second.
Whenever he was
Very, very short time.
getting flack, and they got flack.
Yeah. Yeah, he was getting a lot of flack. Just a few short months.
Shiur yelling.
Yeah, just a few.
Probably the butchers got after it.
Yeah.
The butchers.
My father
Jewish
said.
butchers.
My father said in yeshiva. So apparently, turkey was very cheap in that around Thanksgiving. So he said for the next 3 months in yeshiva, they used to only serve he called them hockey pucks. That's what he used to call them. These frozen hockey pucks, little thing. And he said they were just so sick of them by the time. So I don't think he was too happy about Thanksgiving. So now, okay, fine. So in the final tshuva, Moshe says you seem to have caught me, right, in a contradiction. In the earlier tshuva, he seems to say it's a problem. Later on, he says not a problem. So here he's going to clarify. So he says initially, I seem to have written that it's forbidden. Of b'chuksim l'salechu, and then later on, I think it's just a month later, he said no, there's no prohibition, but you can't make it into a mitzvah, but there's no prohibition doing it. So Rav Moshe says, you want to know my real opinion? I conclude, you can't make it a set thing that we celebrate Thanksgiving. Okay, so Rav Moshe seems to be being noted lahachmer, right? He's inclined to say that it's forbidden.
You still on his second one, or
No. This is the 4th one where he's explaining the difference between number 2 and 3, and he doesn't really explain so much. But he basically says, if you want to know what I really hold, this should be forbidden. Sorry, 1 second. Right. Now, Rav Moshe does say that. Hang on. According to the Ramah, who says if there's a logical reason, this shouldn't be forbidden because there's a good thing. They're not doing it for the purpose of religion. It's only to commemorate something. And this wasn't done by Christians necessarily, just by regular people.
I mean, there's a religious aspect to it, but not necessarily a Christian one.
Right. That's another good question. So he said it shouldn't be a problem. Right. So Rav Moshe kind of wavers. I'm sorry. And basically at the end he says it's not so clear. This needs further clarification. Okay. So basically, in conclusion, Rav Moshe kind of wavers back and forth, and he says, but ultimately, my final thing is one should not do it, right? As part, to celebrate Thanksgiving. So he says, if you want to make a meal, Rav Moshe said, if you want to make a meal on Thanksgiving and you have a day off of work, you want to do it and get together, that's okay, right? But to make we're having a Thanksgiving meal, Rav Moshe wants to say this shouldn't be done. So that's Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe is kind of on that side. But now, so that's like Rav Moshe is like considered the post of America. He sees both ways. While he does say that according to Rama, maybe there's room to permit it, but he's not so happy with this, and he says one should ideally be strict. Now we're going to kind of just mention two other opinions. Rav Hutner, who is the Rosh Yeshiva Berlin. Now it's interesting. He doesn't say clearly there's talk about Thanksgiving. It's pretty, because it wasn't printed as like a tshuva response, a halachic response. This is part of his just published letters, which are on all different topics. But he also talks about halachic topics there as well. He wants to say that this takes on a whole other category as well, because until now we're just talking about following the practices of non-Jews. But he said there's a whole other issue as well, and that is the holiday of a non-Jew. A holiday of a non-Jew is forbidden, right? And since this has become a holiday of a non-Jew, Rav Hutner said this is absolutely forbidden, nothing to talk about, and this is completely forbidden. So it seems like Rav Hutner says it's no good. Similarly, Rav Avigdor Miller, he famously wrote. Rav Avigdor Miller.
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard. Yeah.
Sure.
So he also felt that this was. He said that this is a religious matter. He says that Thanksgiving became a religious thing, and therefore it would be forbidden regardless, right? Because again, this whole discussion is only when it's not a religious matter, and it's just a question of does the fact that have a logical reason, does that help us or not, right? According to the Gemara, it does. According to the Gemara, it doesn't. But Rav Avigdor Miller wants to say, and this is his understanding of the holiday, I guess after doing his research, he says, no, this is a religious practice. They're doing it for their religion, which in our eyes is Avodah Zarah, and therefore it is forbidden altogether.
Which religion?
What?
Which religion?
I guess Christian.
It's just not true. Sorry, Rav Miller. It's just not true.
What do you mean? Why?
Because it is not part of the Christian canon or Catholic canon. It's just not.
Right.
Thanksgiving is not part of any religion.
And it's not recognized in any which way.
And it's not recognized in every country that celebrates those religions.
Right,
It's
right, that's a good
American
point.
and Canadian
That's a good point.
Sometimes in Canada,
So maybe
And Canadian.
yeah, sometimes, in
I
fact,
thought
on
Canada has a different day.
the second
Yeah.
Monday
Yeah.
in Canada, and sometimes on Sukkot.
Oh, yeah.
Because virtually Sukkot is sometimes Monday.
Yeah.
Or some years like this year, every Sukkot is
I
Monday.
object.
So we celebrate our holiday and celebrate our holiday at the same time.
Rabbi Feinstein,
He says,
this is
"Kafisha
Yara
Yira."
on the phone
Let's
again.
hear Rabbi Soloveitchik over there.
Kavisha Yerma Eidos.
Since we're with the trimmings.
Okay.
Let's hear Rabbi Teitelbaum now.
Okay. Okay.
He doesn't have to get his.
Okay. Now, yeah, it is. Yeah, this is. It's quoted very often, but you're right. It is a little difficult to understand which religion is it, unless he holds it's like kind of falls under the general religion. I don't know what that even means.
Well, the Pilgrims and the Puritans too, were specifically a religious group.
Which religion do they follow?
They were Protestants.
Okay, Christian, right?
Sure, but they supposedly were celebrating with Native Americans who weren't.
Mm.
That's supposed.
Right, but
Alleged.
as far as our
While-
legend goes.
While killing them at the same time. Hunting them.
No.
These weren't the ones they killed.
Okay,
Celebrated with
Rav
silence.
Moshe Klein, who was a great Hasidic posek. He was actually very close friend with Eli Wiesel. They were together in
I
the
think it's very wrong.
the Ungvar Rav, exactly. So he wrote a sefer, a Truba sefer called Mishnah Lachis, and he says, hang on a second, if the whole prohibition, he understands that it's not a religious holiday. He says it would only fall into the other category of just following the practices. He says this has a logical reason, shouldn't be forbidden. However, he discusses the other angle that Rav Hutner kind of mentioned, that we're not to follow their holidays, right? If a non-Jew creates a holiday, we can't just start celebrating their holidays. So therefore, he says one should not do it because it takes on a holiday aspect. But Rav Soloveitchik quoted in Sefer Nefesh Harav, which is by his student Rav Hershel Schachter, the Rashiva not Nerisol, I'm sorry. YU now. He says Das Rabbeinu, the opinion of Rabbeinu of Rav Soloveitchik was Shemutter lechel basar hoda b'sof November b'yom Thanksgiving. You're allowed to eat even turkey on Thanksgiving. Vehevanu, we understood Shaladai ein machledas on Thanksgiving mishum Chukos HaGoyim. There's no problem, right? For the reasons mentioned, there's no problem. Now it's interesting. My wife's grandfather, actually, Rav David Cohen from New York, also discusses this, and he says it's an argument. There's a machlokus over here, whether it falls under the is this considered a holiday, whether it's in which case it's forbidden, and he says even if it's not a holiday, then perhaps this falls onto the other category. There's no rhyme or reason, and again, even though giving expressing gratitude is certainly a Jewish ideal. But what comes along with it, that you have to eat turkey and stuffing and cranberry.
No one puts you up against the wall to eat something else.
Right, but it's not that you have to. But it became it, right?
Red sauce is high in added sugar.
It also, in some respects, it diminishes Shabbos, which is the next day.
Interesting, yeah.
Because
I remember.
I always have this dilemma: do I have the turkey?
Yeah.
Leftovers on Shabbos? What?
So I know. It's funny. I remember one time we had guests. We once had guests, and I think it was the week before Thanksgiving. I can't remember if it was the week before, or week after. And my mother served turkey, and they were very offended. Like, how could you serve turkey not on the proper time? See, everyone understands turkey is for Thanksgiving, so that's what. So he wants to say. So my grandfather actually says to eat turkey for that express purpose would be a problem. But if you have a day off and you want to get together, one should certainly, that's not a problem. And then he actually discusses also what about the what's called the Thanksgiving Day Parade, right? The Macy's Parade, right? So he actually discusses that as well.
That's where the Jewish merchants want to start the Christmas shopping season.
Yeah.
So that's Friday, Black Friday. Why should we get ready for Shabbos instead?
The next day, yeah.
So he says.
It's actually on Thanksgiving.
Right, well, Black Friday's the next day.
Silly.
Right. So he says if a person's just going because he wants to see the procession, right? Because he wants to see how many people attend this procession already. Is that a big?
Pretty popular.
It's a very big parade in New York.
Yeah.
With floats and who knows.
So he says.
Televised.
So he wants. So I agree. Yeah.
By Macy's,
we don't have
so
a
some people call it the Macy's.
The Macy's. Okay, I've heard of that. I've never actually been, but. So he wants to say that since this is not a nobody's going to say that this is a religious thing. That's certainly not. So it's only a question of a hevel v'shtus is there's no reason. So if I'm just going because this is it's a cool sight to see, then perhaps this wouldn't be a problem. In fact, the Gemara talks about that a person should go see la'olam yaretz adam likras malchi Yisrael. Not only a person should run to see Jewish kings, and not only Jewish kings, even non-Jewish kings, you should run to see. Why is that? Shem Yizkeh, because if a person merits to see them when the Melech Mashiach comes, he's going to really appreciate what a Mashiach is, right? With the whole grandeur, he's going to see the difference between a non-Jewish king and a Jewish king, and you see and the Melech Mashiach, and it'll give you all the more appreciation for what Melech Mashiach is going to be, Rich Hashem. So he says there might even be a reason to do it. However, he says this is only for an adult. For a child doesn't understand these things, and he's just saying, "Wow, you go to a Thanksgiving, you have to whenever it comes to chinuch, you always have to give it a second thought, right? Because kind of sometimes we view things through our own mature brain, hopefully, but with children, they don't necessarily understand that. So for you to go, that's one thing. Perhaps it might even be a good thing because the Gemara says it's nice. You're supposed to go run to see big crowds because it's going to give you great appreciation for Melech HaMashiach. But when it comes to children, one should be careful. And just as an aside,
they
what?
used to carry this for a considerable period of time on TV.
Yeah.
They still do.
Oh, still on there? Interesting. Just as an aside, so based on this Gemara, which is you're supposed to go run and see, the kings. So, I heard a story that what year is Queen Elizabeth? When did she become queen?
Oh.
50s.
The 50s? Somewhere in the 50s.
Before my time.
Before your time. Okay, before my time also. So, anyways, there's a few Bachram from England who were in yeshiva in Eretz Israel or maybe in America, and she was becoming queen. Maybe, perhaps. No, it was outside of England. I'll tell you why in a second. So outside of England, and they asked the Rosh Hashiva, they wanted to go watch it. It was on TV, and wanted to go watch it. So the Rosh Hashiva told them, yes, you should go. The Gemara says you're supposed to try to watch these things because it gives you a greater appreciation for Mashiach. So a few American Bachram heard about this, and they asked the same Rosh Hashiva, can we also want to watch? He said, no, you can't. He said, what do you mean? But you told them they could go. He said, for you, it's just litzanis. For us Americans, you just laugh the whole thing off. Like these Brits, they're a bunch of crazy. The English people they take it very seriously. I remember my friend when she died. My friend would send me videos and it's so beautiful. And to us, yeah, okay. We don't go for the whole. That's why we fought them, right? So Anyways, so to make a long story short, that's basically what it hinges on. We saw the argument between where there's a prohibition of Chukos HaGoyim, we can't follow their ways, and again we saw the Rishonim, the Rambam, the Ran says because the Torah wants us to be set apart in our dress, in our speech, in our actions, because we are different. We're held to a higher standard. We're supposed to be different, and when we start acting like them, then there's a concern that we might actually start acting like them in more ways than not.
I mean, is it a slippery slope from eating turkey on Thanksgiving to real assimilation? I don't really see much of a connection there.
See, you know what? Some people laughed at, the rabbis said we're not allowed to break bread together with non-Jews, and we're not allowed to eat their bread because of intermarriage.
But that's specifically
And people said, well, that's going to lead to intermarriage. Now I have a question. I think they were proven correct, right? Intermarriage seems to be a rather large problem, right? What?
You're not necessarily inviting
No, you're not even allowed to
relatives
eat the
dinner.
bread that was
Okay.
baked by them.
But listen, whenever you draw, what?
Well, I'm
in
just,
their house.
on a different topic. I don't
Yeah,
understand.
but no, but there's always this is what the rabbis held that we have to draw. It's not even the rabbis. There's a Torah prohibition, as we said, right? And the question is what falls under Torah prohibition.
Yeah.
But we are different in our ways to make sure that we don't act too much. Yeah,
So then 4th of July is the same?
4th of July.
I was just gonna.
No, it's not.
So-
Rav Avigdor Miller would put a
Right,
flag up in a
right. So 4th of July, I don't think anybody will say has any religious, because even the name of the thing it's not even giving thanks by definition is thanking a higher power. So perhaps there might have some element of religious aspect, right? And there might be even more, because that's there might be even more of a hevel shtus aspect to it as well, because like we said, eating turkey, cranberry sauce, football, the whole thing is nonsensical.
4th of July, you got barbecues,
But then that doesn't
fireworks.
go,
Wait, but the fireworks is a celebration.
Yeah.
And barbecues, we don't own. If you invited someone to eat turkey
Do you ever
at
go?
your house over the summer and with pumpkin pie, they'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Exactly.
But if you had a barbecue over your house over the summer, or even whatever, no one would say anything.
But that's the thing.
In
On
Texas,
4th
it
of
is
July,
a
it's
religion.
expected if you're gonna have some kind of dinner,
Yeah.
it's a barbecue. Just like on Thanksgiving.
So
No,
maybe-
that's what I'm
Because
saying.
it's
It's
the
totally
summer.
hot
normal.
dogs is,
So I have to look into it. Yeah, I think
Then
if a
you
person
should
is
not-
doing it we're doing a July 4th celebration, that would be the same discussion, very possibly. If he's doing it for that reason.
So the theoretically, the American argument would be is that we have barbecues all the time.
Right, but if I'm doing a July 4th
all the
celebration.
time too.
Yeah, turkey's always around now.
You have
Yeah, they have ground turkey.
No, but if you
at,
serve turkey and
Prince of right
stuffing in
now.
the summer,
Right.
people would be like,
It's
"What
like,
are
yeah,
you
what do
No,
you
but
think?
are you gonna have a barbecue on 4th
I
and
mean,
on
turkey will fall all the
Thanksgiving?
time.
No.
That's
do
'cause it's
barbecue in
cold
the
out.
winter? That's not like."
No,
I've been
specifically
barbecues in the winter.
Thanksgiving.
We make barbecues all the time.
I mean, on Hanukkah one.
Yeah, but if it's done as like a.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I know, I've never been to July.
So
With
listening
each
to
one.
Rabbi Posner that was talking about Jews and non-Jews and what non-Jews can do,
Right,
right?
Perlo,
Right,
yeah.
Perlo, okay. And he talked about one of the things that non-Jews can gain from Torah would be gratitude, right? That should be across the
Right.
board, like a thankfulness,
Right.
right? So why is that not okay?
Right.
They're being thankful when that's something that Hashem has said all humanity should.
Right. That's a good question. You're saying, how should they express their gratitude then? Right?
Well, the Goyim are allowed.
What? Right. So
to
the
celebrate Thanksgiving.
yeah. Yeah, so the Rav Moshe Feinstein says, the answer is, as Rabbi Graham said, they're allowed to do it. Nobody's questioning whether they're allowed to do it. The question is, are we allowed to do
They're
it?
not asking us for
But you
permission.
said one of the reasons we can't do it is because they're expressing gratitude.
No, but once it became their practice, and we're not allowed to follow their practice. So they're doing their thing, and everyone's doing, everyone has their own mission. So they're doing what they're supposed to do, but we're not supposed to follow their ways.
So gratitude was like a Torah
Right, a Torah
thing,
ideal.
and then they took gratitude and made it their own, and so
Right.
then it's questionable. So what if we look at like drinking wine, right? Like you have pictures of Jesus turning water into wine, and then you
Mhm.
have this wine is becoming the blood of Christ, and then you're
Yeah, I do
having
that.
in church every Sunday you're having communion, and how can we
If
as
it's part-
Jews still drink wine even though it's in the Torah if they've taken this thing and made it
So
something?
they've culturally appropriated our
About-
faith.
they've taken it to Avodah
And
Zarah.
now, soon we won't be
Thanksgiving,
able to
if
light
we
Hanukkah
stop-
candles
They've
because
taken
of
it to Avodah
Kwanzaa.
Zarah.
Right.
It's funny to say the problem isn't the Thanksgiving. The problem is doing the Thanksgiving the way that they do it.
Right, right.
The ritual. That's all.
To do the rituals.
Right? It's
What
like
rituals?
What?
What rituals?
We just been through this. Sitting down to for Thanksgiving meal. That's a ritual. How can you not call that a ritual?
That's not
Of course, it's a
sitting
ritual.
down to
Wait, let's go outside. Let's do a thought experiment. We're gonna go ask outside. What is Thanksgiving to you? And they'll say, I don't know. We sit around, we eat turkey, and watch football.
That's
Right?
not a
That's a
ritual.
ritual. That's a
That's not a
definition of
ritual.
ritual. I'm sorry. That's a definition of ritual.
No, it's a
Of course.
tradition. Everybody sits down to a meal at
Traditional
dinner
ritual.
time.
Okay.
It's just, you have guests over and you have certain items on the menu, but there's no like seder actually.
Okay.
that I know.
All right. So let's just wrap it up here. So basically,
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
My father-in-law, blessed memory, was a Holocaust survivor, totally secular.
Yeah.
He loved Thanksgiving, and it was Karasatov for America.
yeah,
Because he came from Europe.
that's another good point.
America
Obviously,
was the
we
greatest
are
country in the world.
definitely grateful. If you look in Rav Moshe's Shuvas, there's so many times where he says we were grateful to the country,
Right.
so we express it in different ways necessarily. But that's not itself
No.
necessarily the reason. I'm not saying what he's doing is forbidden. I'm just saying that in and of itself is not a reason. We can't just go ahead and if it's forbidden, we can't permit it on the basis that we have to show gratitude. So we have to show gratitude in other ways. We have to be civil servants. We have to be law-abiding citizens.
The bottom line is, what do you say?
Oh, okay. So okay. So
Everyone should ask their own local Orthodox.
So what I would say is, again, just to summarize, Rav Moshe we saw is kind of wavered, and he concludes that one should ideally be careful if one is doing it for the purpose of a Thanksgiving dinner. He said if a person just has, I have a day off, my friend has a day off, let's get together, and maybe even if turkey happens to be the cheapest thing on there, and you want to buy it, okay, perhaps that's permitted. But if you're doing it for the purpose of Thanksgiving, Rav Moshe says perhaps this should be forbidden. That's Rav Moshe. We saw, Rav Hutner said very clearly it's no good. But on the other hand, Rav Soloveitchik said that it's perfectly fine. So I would say that, listen, if a person follows, if we have a concept in halacha that you follow your Rebbe, right? The person follows their Rebbe. So if a person is a student of Rav Soloveitchik, so he's certainly well within his right to follow it. If a person is a student or Rav Moshe, or he follows generally Rav Moshe, so one should generally avoid it.
What if you're a Rebbe?
What? So what you're asking me what I personally
What if the
do?
congregation,
So
what if
because
the congregation hires you to make halachic decisions?
so because I generally follow the opinion of my wife's grandfather, David Cohen, so I would personally avoid it. Again, if it's for the purpose of a Thanksgiving dinner, I wouldn't do that. Again, we're also discussing a Torah prohibition. We have a rule that when there's a Torah prohibition and there's a suffix, and you're in doubt whether there's a Torah prohibition at play, we generally are stringent. But when it's a rabbinic prohibition, then there's more room for leniency. But however, we were talking about a Torah prohibition of Chukos HaGoyim, and therefore, again, if one has following the Rebbe, then he's certainly well within his right. But if not, then I personally would be stringent. But
So if we don't have a specific tradition from our Rebbe, the default is to not do it?
the Gemara in Avodah Zarah Daf Zayin says that a person should always follow the Rebbe, and if a person doesn't have a Rebbe, b'shel Torah halach lahachmer, when it's a Torah question, you are ruled stringently. B'shel Darabbanan, when it's a rabbinic prohibition, we follow leniently. So this seemingly would fall under the category of a Torah prohibition. So if a person does not have a specific Masorah tradition on this,
Chazak, because we've been doing it for a year.
Chazaka.
Chazaka, no?
Okay.
Doesn't apply?
so perhaps it depends. You have to look back. You have to go back to the source, right? There's also kind of a minhag. So I'm not coming here to.
My question is also, is there a way to like do it, like to add like a hecker or something that like you're having the whole thing, but like you also have something else that kind of ruins.
You put like a set of keys on the table. So I don't know if that works. If this
I'll
crosses
tell
over.
you a
Like,
possible
like-
analogy, I don't know if it's really close or not. The young Israel we used to belong to in Michigan had a night where the people were going out to the Red Wings hockey game. And so between periods, the Rav was giving a lecture on some kind of halacha.
Yeah, no. What I would say is,
You
but if
purposely
it,
do something different.
I don't know if you. I don't think just changing one small thing. Again, I'm not saying it's forbidden, but I'm saying if one person assumes that it's forbidden, then what I'd say is if a person says, "Look, I have a day off. Let's get together. We're not doing it for Thanksgiving. We're doing it because we have a day off. We want to enjoy spending time together." That's not a problem.
So how does that work? You have to just say that out loud.
Yeah, I would say. But I would avoid turkey for that reason also, because like I said, there's no inherent. It's not like it doesn't become chazer, it doesn't become pig on Thanksgiving. But if a person,
Yeah, but
But-
what if you have turkey and you say, "I'm not doing this L'Shem Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because it's
So
a
Hashem,
nice,
like
fun
one
thing to
of
do."
these things Hashem knows are true intentions. So if that's a true intention, that'll be permitted. But if a person is like, I'm kind of doing celebrate Thanksgiving, it might be problematic. It's a machlokas. But there are definitely those who permit it. Or Hinkin, not Eliyahu Hinkin, but his grandson also is one of the people who permit it. We just have one more minute. I just want to discuss some of the other where these discussions come up. So the reason why we wear a yarmulke, right? So we know it's Yari Malka to why men wear a yarmulke. So there was a discussion at one point whether it's Chukos HaGoyim because why is a Jewish priest called a galach? Galach literally means bald because they used to shave their heads. So like they would go uncovered. I think now I don't know when it changed. Now they do cover their head, right?
Yeah, they wear like those red.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly
Oh, as a being.
what was it. What was the difference? What was that story with when a famous rabbi met like the chief cardinal of New York. So what's the difference between me and you? The difference is my yarmulke is black, but my financial books are in the red, and your yarmulke is red, but your financial books are in the black. Something like those lines. Different yarmulkes in different financial situation. So sitting Begilei Rosh was a discussion whether that's but it's ultimately not a problem. When they started wearing modern clothing, right? Back then, everyone used to wear long clothing like the Chassidim, and then people said, "Oh, let's change European style, nice short things." So
that's how Yekka came up.
Yeah, and it was very controversial. You're following the ways of non-Jews. Okay, what non-Jewish names is a whole discussion. Again, I'm not going to delve into them all at hand, but that's a discussion. Non-Jewish dates, right? This might even have a different category. But we're not supposed to. Today is what? I don't know. Today's November something. There's the Rambam discusses that we're Chodesh Alchem, right? This month is for you. That we're supposed to have our own calendar. So there's a question whether about using non-Jewish dates.
So
Ultimately,
4th of July for that reason.
That'd be another reason, exactly. Okay, and those are basically. And having music at like different tefillos, that was some of the controversies. Again, that also became. A lot of these things you have to look back at the history, right? And the Reform started introducing music into the thing to follow the churches, so this became very controversial. Nowadays, people are like, I'm doing this to the church. I want to do it because I want to have nice, enjoyable halal.
You can't play music on Shabbos or Yom Tov.
Right.
So
No, what about Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh. Could you have a Rosh halal?
Only like the musical, I know some have overdone it.
Yeah.
What they call Karbach Minyan. Not all, but some.
Yeah.
The musical Slichos.
And the Yekkas
Never will.
orchestra or singers, right?
Singers, okay, yeah. No one going to sports games, right? Perhaps this should be a problem. What about placing flowers on graves?
The Yankees are definitely a photo.
Yanks have heard that, that's for sure.
Some say
Okay, so these are some of the discussions. Maybe at a later point we could have about graduation ceremonies, wearing the caps and gowns. These are just some of the different. Again, these are not necessarily forbidden, but these are some discussions. Because again, the Torah wants us to be. The idea is the Torah we're meant to be different. We are different, right? And the Torah wants us to act. We're held to a higher standard, and these are some of the considerations. So, in light of that, everyone should follow the local Orthodox rabbi. So.